This is my subjective experience of Rock in Rio. It was the biggest show that we've ever done, by far.
Fantastic.
And we were not ready.
Is it true you almost had a soundtrack in Batman?
That's a terrible story.
I want to hear it.
No. See, this is the great thing about being out of the music business. We can tell all the stories.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Galera, estamos começando mais um brothermixcast e hoje com uma atração internacional.
Verdade.
Mais uma vez aqui, meus colegas que vão inclusive manter essa entrevista no auge do inglês. Bryam Floor.
Bryam Floor. Fala aí, galera.
Como é que você tá, querido?
Tô bem, graças a Deus.
Tudo na paz?
Tô bem.
Thiago, ó. Gustavo Alvim.
Muito prazer estar aqui.
Tava na próxima, né?
Pois
doente,
nada,
tá
tava na
agora.
outra, né? Tive um probleminha, uma dengue aí.
Tá melhor
Dengue
100%.
fever, yeah. 100%, graças a Deus. E é um prazer estar aqui. Bom, acho que a gente pode trocar agora, né?
E sim, agora vocês que vão mandar, que meu inglês tá naquele básico ainda, vou entender, mas não consigo pronunciar, então...
Vamos lá, vou trocar a língua para inglês, tá? I'm switching to the English language now. Just to say, subtitles on YouTube are not really accurate, so you will have the subtitles, everything here, okay, will be available to you during the whole episode, okay? Don't worry about it. So, as Ale said, we have a international attraction here. Right, from Information Society, all right? Information Society is an American band with a style that combines synth pop, new wave, techno, freestyle, and dance music. The group, also known as InSoc, was formed in 1982 in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and has had different lineups throughout its history. However, the band's classic lineup consists of Kurt Harland on vocals, Paul Robb on the keyboards and the synthesizer, and James Cassidy on the bass. In 1988, Information Society released its self-titled debut album on Tommy Boy Records and Warner Records. This album contains the hits What's on Your Mind, Walking Away, Repetition, and Running. This work is also known for containing samples taken from the TV series Star Trek in some of its tracks. In 1990, the trio released their second album, Hack, which contains the hits Think, How Long, Come With Me, and Slipping Away. In January 1991, the group performed the tour for this album at Rock in Rio 2. This day of the festival, which also featured acts such as the Norwegian band AHA and the Brazilian band RPM, made history and broke records with an audience of 198,000 people. In 1992, InSoc's third album, Peace and Love Incorporated, was released, which contained the hits Cry Baby and Peace and Love Incorporated. In 1993, the band split up, but since 2008, Information Society has been reunited with its classic lineup. Born on February the 8th, 1963, Paul Robb is currently 61 years old. In addition to being one of the founding members of Information Society, Paul is the composer of most of the group's songs. Although they have achieved global recognition, especially in the United States and Japan, Brazil was the country where InSoc achieved their greatest success and their largest fan base. In December 2024, the band returned to the country for another successful tour, and Paul still found time in his schedule to honor the public with an exclusive interview for brothermixcast. This Brazilian podcast is formed by Ale Rio, Bryam Floor, and Gustavo Alvim. Telling a little about what happened behind the scenes, this interview came from an idea by Gustavo Alvim. Then, the journalist and DJ Bryam Floor, also known as Bita, who's a longtime and big fan of the band, pulled some strings to get the interview. The dream came true, and now the electronic music icon Paul Robb is here for the first international interview of Brother Mixcast.
Palmas, por favor.
Yeah, let's clap our hands.
Nossa primeira atração internacional.
Yeah, we're very happy to have you here. Okay, Paul, it's a pleasure for me. Especially, I think I resonate with what Bita is feeling, because if He-Man creators were here, I mean, you might have noticed that I have the sword here. Lou Scheimer and Erika Scheimer, if they were here, I would be overwhelmed, probably. So he must be feeling lots of things. He's a huge fan, all right? So I'll be here to control his temper, all right?
As He-Man.
Yeah, as He-Man, exactly. I have the power. All right. So we're gonna start by, the beginning of everything, and focusing on the tour here in Brazil, all right?
How are the shows going?
Yeah.
Eight concerts.
It's very interesting because we started playing in Brazil in 1989.
Mm-hmm.
We stopped. Our last show was in 1993. And then we took a hiatus from the band,
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
and we didn't play in Brazil again until 2009.
Wow.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
2009 was good. 2012 was good.
Yes.
And then things were questionable. We didn't have a new record or anything, but the last 2 or 3 tours, every tour is better. Every tour is better.
It gets better all the time,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, that's wonderful.
Bigger venues, better crowds. We've had, so we played in Rio twice now,
Mhm.
Last week, and we played in Belo Horizonte and Ribeirão Preto. Every show was good.
Excellent.
And I have nothing but great thoughts.
How many shows there will be?
So far, we've done 4. We have 4 more shows next week.
Okay.
Porto Alegre and Brasilia and Sao Paulo and
Goiânia.
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 Sim.
There was a massive flood in Porto Alegre recently. I think you've...
I read about that.
Yeah. And the city is still recovering from it. And is the show confirmed? Because...
I hope so.
Yeah.
It's our last show.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
the last show. We're supposed to fly home from Porto Alegre. So I would imagine that we would have heard.
Yeah.
There was a massive flood in Bangu 2 nights ago.
Oh, really?
Because of the storm.
Oh,
The
yeah.
whole stage was destroyed.
But it was a summer
But it worked.
storm. Yeah,
Everything
it
worked.
was really...
Yeah.
Porto Alegre was a bit different
No,
because
I know.
it was
Terrible.
back in April or May, I guess. April and May, and it was really crazy.
Yeah.
They lost houses, schools were damaged, or it was complicated.
Well,
Madonna was here playing at Copacabana at the same time.
She was,
Madonna.
but not in Porto Alegre.
No,
right?
Rio.
Yeah,
Oh,
in
the
Rio,
beach,
yeah.
the big
Yeah.
show.
The
on
beach show, yeah. Have you heard of it?
Of course.
Yeah. Yeah, Peter.
I have the impression that this time you try to put some new stuff on the set list, different songs, covers. Is it true?
That's true. I felt like we can't come to Brazil again. Like, we could play cities in the U.S. that we haven't played in 20 years. We could play a show in Cincinnati or Louisville or something, and they haven't seen us for 20 years. We can play whatever we want, but we come to Brazil every 2 years. We can't play the same songs again. We can't play the same set. So we really put some work into finding and pulling out some old songs that no one would expect.
Yeah.
Some very old songs, some songs that were not on an album, and we have a very strong female singer with us this time. So we
Marisa?
wanted to do
Marisa,
a lot of,
right? Yeah.
Marisa Lenhart. We wanted to do a lot of duets and some fun covers from our
Yeah,
album.
she was great.
Yeah.
I was there in Fundição Progresso, and it was great.
Mostly,
Yeah.
the idea was to surprise the audience.
Yeah.
We wanted to play some things that no one would expect.
Yeah.
But what is the name of the singer that sang "Runaway" on the studio version?
Yeah, I wanted to
Oh,
ask that. Yeah.
Okay, so Runaway was from an album called Synthesizer.
Yes.
And that the singer on most of that album, not all of it, was named Christopher Anton.
Yes.
And he was with us for only about a year. While I asked Kurt, when we made that album, I came to Kurt and I said, let's make a new album. And
But I mean,
We
the female,
thought-
the female singer, female vocal.
the
Yeah,
female
we
singer.
thought it
Yeah,
was
yeah.
Sonia.
No,
No, it
No?
wasn't.
no.
Yeah.
Okay, here's some Information Society.
Yeah,
trivia.
please. Yeah.
And I'm happy to say this because I love her. The woman who sang originally on Runaway and who co-wrote Runaway with me, her name was Layla Mack,
Oh, Layla Mack.
and she co-wrote a lot of the songs on that album, with me, and also the next album. She sang on it, and she co-wrote some of the songs.
Hello World.
Yeah.
Hello World. Yeah.
And I love her, and I wish that she only appeared on stage with us one time in Los Angeles. That's where she lives. She lives in L.A.
There is a backing vocal on Land of the Blind. It's her.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Are you still friends with her?
Oh yeah.
Yeah? Oh,
yeah.
great. So
Yeah.
you have a good relationship with...
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's,
we were a great writing team. We tried to develop a group together. And
yeah.
that didn't work. But yeah, we're still friends, and I think some of the songs that we wrote together are fantastic. They're still great. And Runaway is one of those songs.
This time, was Kurt out of the band when you recorded the album, or no?
For Synthesizer, you
Or-
mean?
Yes.
yeah.
Nobody was really out or in the band.
Yeah.
It was, Kurt made "Don't Be Afraid" in the late '90s, and that was his album, completely on his own. And then, by the time the 2000s happened, 2005 or 2006, we were starting to do some shows again, and I approached Kurt and said, "Let's do a new album." And he said, "I have little children.
Yeah.
I have a job making music for video games. I just don't have the time." And I said, "Well, I want to do it anyway. I'll use a different singer." And he
Yeah.
said, "Okay."
Okay, it's fine. Yeah.
And he sang 2 of the songs on that album, and it worked out fine.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then as soon as his children were big enough, then we started touring again. As the original lineup.
Yeah, lineup.
Yeah.
Okay.
Around this time, you produced some demos of Burning Bridges back in the day, Road Enough. Do you remember the year that you produced these songs, these tracks?
Well, this is top secret, so don't tell anyone. But Burning
This
Bridges,
information will be shared.
Yes.
So
Burning Bridges, World Enough, and what was the other one?
Back in the day.
back in the day.
With Kurt in the vocals.
With Kurt, yeah.
Those demos were written in 1992.
Wow. So you kept in
Were-
the drawer,
were written
right?
Were written
That's
and
what we say in
produced
Portuguese.
in-
That is not produced, but written.
okay.
And so when you listen to Hello World,
Mhm.
most of the songs on that album were written in New York in 1992 and 1993.
Oh,
okay.
But
interesting.
they were going to be our 4th album
Yeah.
on Warner Brothers.
But those demos with Kurt and the vocals were produced in what year? Around
92.
92.
produced, yes.
Yeah.
Produced and written.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not the finished product. Because, for example, Burning Bridges, we put on Synthesizer, and that was sung by Christopher Anton.
Yes.
But the song was originally written in 1992 or 1993
I see.
for our 4th album
Yeah.
on Warner Brothers. That did
But it
not
makes
happen.
sense because the songs have the same sound of Peace and Love Incorporated.
Yeah. I've tried to make the band sound different, but
Ale,
it
do you want
never
to say
works.
Well, let's talk about something a bit different now. You've been to Brazil many times. I mean, you've had the chance to come here, and I mean, you like a lot. Which city you like the most?
I can't say that.
You should.
That's like saying which soccer team, which football team I like the best. I can't say
Flamengo,
that.
please.
If I'm here, I say Flamengo. If I'm Sao Paulo, I say Corinthians.
Oh, yeah. He's
I don't
wearing the
know.
Flamengo jersey.
know.
Yeah.
For me, I like Rio the best.
Yeah.
Rio the best. I know that Kurt likes Curitiba
Hmm.
a lot. We also like São
Because of the
Paulo.
weather?
Because of the weather.
Yeah, probably.
And he likes Germans.
I would choose Curitiba as well, or any place which is cold.
We've had great experiences in Sao Paulo. We've had great experiences up north on the coast, Salvador. There's a place called Pipa Beach.
Oh, Natal. It's
In Natal,
Rio Grande
that-
do Norte.
that
Yeah.
Jim Cassidy
Yeah.
has been to 3 or 4 times
That's
just as a tourist.
Yeah. Back in the van when we were talking there, I told you, oh, it's a good opportunity to get off the beaten track. So what do you usually do here when you have the chance to tourist?
We don't ever have the chance to tourist. That's the problem. When you're on tour with a band, you come into a city, you see the airport, you see the hotel, and you see the venue.
Oh gosh,
And
yeah.
that's it.
That's it, right? Yeah.
And if you're in Rio, then you see Copacabana,
Copacabana,
or Ipanema Beach.
Ipanema, yeah.
And that's it. And then you see the hotel again, and you see a different city.
Yeah.
But we have had a few days off this time. And as I said, we went to Pedra Bonita this morning, hiked up to the top. We could not
Amazing
see,
place,
We
yeah.
couldn't see anything. It was just clouds.
Clouds, yeah.
Just clouds.
Yeah. Pedra Bonita.
Yeah.
Barra da Tijuca, no. He hasn't been there yet, but he will, I guess.
Oh, I have been.
To Barra da Tijuca, yeah? Oh, yeah.
And, the botanical gardens here.
Oh,
And of
botanical
course,
gardens, yeah.
All the standard touristy things. We like to go to Lapa and listen to some traditional music.
Lapa, yeah. Amazing, yeah.
Lapa.
Exactly.
And that's pretty much it. We generally when you're on tour, you don't have a lot of time.
Yeah,
to
I agree.
see-
Yeah.
to see the city.
Okay. Yeah.
And this time you were playing with Concan.
Right.
How did the idea of playing with them come about? Come about.
I do not know.
Yes.
Actually, we played here in Brazil with Concan in 1993. A few shows.
I guess 1991.
1991.
Oh, man, yes.
I produced part of his album that year. And
Yes.
so maybe there was something there.
2 songs, right?
Yeah.
2 songs, yeah.
Do you remember the name of the songs?
One was called Better Way, and I think one was called My Camera,
Mm.
and I think maybe a song called Liberty.
Liberty.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Barry has always been a good friend. We did, in the 90s, we did a 12-inch, a dance 12-inch together. It was a cover of the song Under the Milky Way by the Church.
We loved the opening of the show. It was really great.
Well, we
Great
think-
energy.
We think they're a perfect band to tour with us.
Have you
because-
been doing these tours alongside Concan?
No, just this
just
tour.
this one.
Yeah.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Just this one.
But
Okay.
every show. So every,
Every
show,
show.
we have Concan, and then for 4 of the shows we have W.
Yes.
Is also.
Oh, W.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, they're also playing with us.
Yeah. It's a very good one.
And we've played with them before.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yes.
3 or 4 years ago we played
Yes.
with W.
Okay.
And that was very
But
fun.
only in Brazil, right?
Right.
And when you're in the United States, you don't play. There's no band opening the show.
It's different in the U.S. The local promoters decide which bands will open for you. We've played many shows with an act called Anything Box.
Yes.
Yeah, I've heard of it. Yeah.
He's a good opener for us, and also a band called T for Two.
T for 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you also produce songs for 242 and Noel.
That's right.
No.
Silent
yeah.
Morning.
That's right.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah, and also a band called Red Flag.
Russian radio.
Yeah,
Wow.
Oh.
yeah.
Incredible songs.
So
He's
sometimes
very happy.
sometimes we'll do a show, and then after the show is done, they play Noel, and then they play Red Flag. And,
Yes,
and I say, oh, that's my song. Oh, that's my song too. but no one knows. No one knows anymore.
Yeah. Which city do you live in the U.S. nowadays?
I don't live in a city. I am a person who is never satisfied with anything.
Interesting.
And I move from city to city very often.
You're a nomad.
I am a nomad. I lived in LA for 20 years. That's the longest I've ever lived anywhere.
Yeah.
Now I live in New Hampshire,
Oh,
in the woods.
in the woods. That's
in the
wonderful.
Middle of nothing.
Is it cold in the winter?
No, it's like Minnesota. And also, we don't have winter. You know, it used to be cold.
It used to be, yeah.
Not so much anymore. It's very sad. I'm going to have to go to Greenland,
Yeah.
I think, because I need cold weather.
Me too.
I need snow.
Me too.
I'm going to go to Norway, I think.
Yeah.
And Kurt and James.
Kurt lives in San Francisco.
Oh, okay.
He's lived there since 1993. And James lives in Oregon.
Oregon.
Yeah.
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 Where he is a professor.
That is right.
Yes.
That is correct. Yeah.
Oh, what does he teach?
Soil science.
For real?
Yeah.
Soil
Don't ask him about
science.
it, though, because he'll talk to you for 8 hours about the
God,
soil.
I don't even know what that is.
It's for farmers, and it's for
quality and
yeah.
improvements and
yeah,
yeah.
that's right.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's I've become very interested in it because he's such a good teacher. He never
Yeah.
stops talking about it.
That's
And
interesting.
just today, when we were hiking up Pedro Bonita, I was saying to my girlfriend, I said, oxasols, which is a type of soil.
Yeah, it's a type of soil.
the
Yeah.
red one when you see the iron in the soil. And
Mm-hmm.
I learned that from James Cassidy.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I would love to talk to him. For real.
Well-
Even if it's 8 hours, 9 hours, that's fine.
Ele
Yeah.
só conheceu ou chegou a pular de asa delta?
Did you go to the paragliding stuff in Pedro
No,
Bonita
I would
today?
never do
No.
that.
Okay.
I'm too frightened of
Did you manage to go to the landing and taking off?
Well, no, because
Runway?
you go up the path, and that
The
way
path,
is for
yeah.
the hang gliding, and that way is for the top of the mountain. So we went up the hiking trail.
Okay. Yeah. Only, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And you are retired right now?
Mostly,
Yeah.
I'm working right now, but
Yeah. He's working, right? He's
Yes.
here. Yeah.
That-
I'm only doing the fun things now.
Good.
but
Good.
you did music for advertising.
That's right.
Right.
I had my own company.
Jingles?
Well, we don't like to use that.
Yeah.
word.
That's. I'm sorry. Is it derogatory if I say that?
It is now.
It is now.
Yeah.
Okay.
But sometimes the ad agencies would come to us and say we want a ironic jingle,
Yeah.
and then it's fun. But yeah, we've done some terrible jingles.
Because here in Brazil, you can make loads of money with jingles.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's
Yeah.
just, I mean, once you write them, it's fine.
Yeah. No, I've made some. Good
And if
money
it's
on,
a catchy one,
yeah,
you just
Yeah.
make money.
yeah.
And you have a girlfriend, but you didn't marry.
Well, I was married before.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have children?
I do. I have 2 children.
Two children.
Wonderful.
I have a son who is a software engineer for Facebook.
Wow.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And then I have another son who plays the French horn for the Symphony of Quebec.
Oh, yeah. The one who lives
Yeah,
in
Quebec City.
Quebec City.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
So probably your son lives in the Silicon Valley.
No, he lives in Oregon.
Oh.
These
He works remotely.
these
right?
companies, they have data centers,
Yeah.
huge data centers everywhere.
Mm.
Singapore,
Singapore,
Saudi Arabia,
yeah.
Greenland,
Greenland, New
so-
York, and
Yeah.
anywhere. Yeah.
yeah.
They are not in Brazil.
No, they
I
are.
mean-
Yes, they are.
Some of them are, but
I
I,
have
don't know where they are.
I have a friend
where
who
they are
works
located.
for Akamai.
Akamai?
Akamai is an internet company that
Okay.
helps video, and they have thousands of employees in Brazil.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. You were born in Minneapolis, Minnesota, right? All of you.
Right.
Where did you
And
guys?
you are the
yeah.
same age.
You're the
three
same
of you.
age,
We
yeah.
went to high school together. We graduated the same year.
Wow, fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although we were not friends in school.
No.
Only afterwards. Yeah, only after.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah. How was your childhood? Would you say it was Positive.
That's a big question.
It is. We're philosophers.
I think that our all three of our childhoods were very typical for the time. We watched a lot of TV. We were very privileged, although we did not know that. None of us were rich, but if you were an American in the suburbs in the 1970s and 80s, you were very privileged. And yet, for all three of us, the only thing we cared about was to get away from that.
Yeah.
We wanted to go somewhere else and be someone else. And I think that helped drive our career in music, because we wanted to get out of the suburbs and get into the city, and get into the fights and
Back
the,
there,
and the scene.
Did you think, oh, I was probably I will be going traveling everywhere? Would you imagine that?
Maybe, but we were just talking about this the other day. We didn't have enough experience in the world to even be able to imagine
Yeah.
anything like that. We were just talking about, for instance, the two countries that I love most in the world, which are Brazil and Japan. We only discovered them because of the band. I
Oh.
had no knowledge or desire
Yeah.
to travel to Brazil or to travel to Japan. But once we got there,
And
we
you saw,
realized this is a whole
this is a
world
whole
here.
world. Yeah.
like, how can this be? How can this whole world? I've never heard of anything
yeah.
here, because Americans are very isolated. Americans,
And
think
we are
that-
very warm, right? We hug people. We are talkative,
well, I think
easygoing somehow.
In that way, Brazilians and Americans are quite similar. Very
Do
friendly.
you think so?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
loud.
Loud. I
in a
agree.
different way,
Yeah. In a different way. In
Yeah.
a different way. Yeah.
But so we imagined these things, but we didn't have anything to base our imagination on. I remember thinking, like, well, if we were to have a hit record, I just had this idea of like flying to Europe and having wine and cheese and going to art galleries or
Exactly.
something,
Exactly.
or like the red carpet or something like that. I thought that's what it would be.
In
like.
here, you have the opportunity to do things that you never thought you
Yeah.
would. Yeah.
By the way, where is the red there's no red carpet here. I'm
Oh yeah. I'm so sorry for that.
Yes.
We're gonna do it next time.
Okay,
Don't worry.
Thank you. So, but reality is always better.
Yeah.
And do you have an explanation for the success of information society here in Brazil?
I do, but I don't know if it's true.
Try us.
Okay, so it's a little long. So
okay.
bear with me. Okay, so when we were growing up in Minneapolis, we were somewhat isolated, which was good for a band. Because if you think about it, no good bands ever come from New York or LA. All those bands, because they have too many influences, they're too exposed to everything, so they're always trying to follow something. Whereas in a city like Minneapolis, which I think I would equate to like a Curitiba or something like that, we got some things, but not everything. We had Prince, and we had some punk bands like the Replacements.
Prince is
And
from
then we had-
Minneapolis.
Yeah.
We had import records from England, and we had Kraftwerk.
Yeah.
And
I love it.
Some German bands,
Yeah.
and through all of those influences, we became what we were. But then we heard something coming out of New York, which at that time was called electro, and it was like Soul Sonic Force, and it was hip hop, but it was fast hip hop. There was no such word as hip hop back then. It was just rap music. they called
Rap
it.
music. Yeah.
and
Which is rhythm and poetry, right?
it's just rhythm.
Yeah. It's
and
a rhythm, right?
ironically, Soul Sonic Force stole all their rhythms from Kraftwerk. So we
And
have,
Brazilian funk is very similar to
well,
that.
that it came a little later. So
Yeah,
what
sure.
happened was, we took those beats, which were started out as Germans, based on funk music,
Yes.
then filtered back through New York hip hop, and because we couldn't rap, we didn't want to rap, we wanted to sing.
Yeah.
So we put chords on top of the hip hop music, and we sang the kind of music that we were being influenced by, which was European new romantic music. And the chords that we chose were chords that happened to be Latin,
Yeah.
for lack of a better word.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it so happened that Running became a hit in the Latin parts of New York. It was never a hit in the downtown clubs.
Mm-hmm.
It was a hit in New Jersey and the Bronx and Queens and parts of Connecticut, where it was all Dominicans and Puerto Ricans and Mexicans and I think there's some combination of romantic lyrics and chords with syncopated rhythms that speaks to a Latin music tradition.
I see.
And you know, it's not just Brazil. We've been to almost every country in South America and Central America, Puerto Rico, you know, Costa Rica, Argentina, Peru, Chile,
All of them, right? Yeah.
Colombia.
Colombia.
Huge.
Yeah, huge. It
Yeah.
is. Yeah. it
One
is.
of our biggest shows we ever did, not counting Rock in Rio, was in Colombia.
How many people?
30,000.
Wow.
30,000.
That's a lot.
Yeah, crazy. Not anymore. Not now.
Which city did you go to in Colombia?
We,
Do you...
we
Medellin?
played Bogota
Bogota?
3 or 4 times,
Mhm.
Medellin, and Cali.
Cali,
And this
yeah.
is when those cities were not very safe to go to.
Exactly. Yeah.
When we were on our way to Medellin, we were coming down from the airport, and the exhaust was coming into our bus. So some people had to get out of the bus for a few minutes, and we were at this side of the road where it was like a park. And finally, our handler,
Mhm.
after about 5 minutes, said, "You have to get back in the bus. We can't be here anymore. We have to
Yeah.
drive on." But we loved it, and we still do. And right now, Medellin is one of the best cities in South America. The
I've heard of
food-
it.
The food
Yeah.
scene, the bar scene,
It's
the
amazing.
art scene. It's just fantastic.
And it's safe now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty safe.
Yeah.
All Colombia. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gustavo, pergunta. Não sei se é uma dúvida que todo mundo tem,
Mhm.
mas na running, né, na música, se ele sabe a parte que fala um palavrão.
Nossa,
Aqui
não.
no
Ah,
Brasil,
yeah. I wanted
se
to
é-
ask
se ele
that.
sabe que é palavrão
Sabe,
e se em
é.
outros países também tem
Mhm,
alguma coisa após
Wonderful
o refrão.
question. Wonderful question.
Only in Rio.
He's asking me if you guys know, all of you, of course, that in running,
Oh, we know
whenever,
it. We
yeah,
I mean, it's
it's cursing all
no,
the time.
no, we
yeah.
love it. We love it. It's funny because when
Does
we
it
were,
happen in all countries? It's only in Brazil?
It's not
Only
just
in Rio.
Only,
Only in Rio.
Only in Rio.
Oh,
When we were in Bangu 2 nights ago,
uh-huh.
it was crazy. They did, and I had forgotten that we were in Rio because it's so far away.
Yeah,
And
it
when
is.
They,
It
when
is.
They did
Yeah.
it, I was kind of like, but it's fun.
Sorry,
because,
Bangu, okay? We love you.
Yes, but you know, Kurt speaks some Portuguese.
Yes.
And
does,
He
yeah.
always makes a big joke out of it,
Yeah.
and everyone has a good time, and it's hilarious.
It is. Oh, it's
bom.
only in Rio.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
Well, you know, yesterday we went to the Museum of Art here in Rio,
Mhm.
and they have a really nice. Speaking of baile funky, they have a really nice exhibit about baile funk, and there was some footage
Mhm.
of a demonstration
Yeah.
where they were using that phrase in a political demonstration.
Chegou a conhecer algum baile funk?
Me? Oh, did you ever get the chance to go to a funk?
No.
It's not prom, but it's
yeah.
some sort of a
party.
funk party. Yeah, funk
It's
party.
interesting, and I'll tell you what else I thought about yesterday. So many Latin styles have become worldwide
Mhm.
phenomena. Cumbia and reggaeton, and,
Yeah.
and so many Mexican styles, and not baile funk. And I don't know why, but I do know that sometimes when I mention that I like that style of music to our fans, they're kind of like, oh, that's not good music. That's for criminals, and
I
things
beg
like.
to differ.
And I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't know the cultural context, so I'm a dummy coming from another country.
I don't know
saying,
if you
I
have
like this kind of music.
I don't know if you have heard of her, but we have a phenomenon here. It's called Anita. She's a singer. She started singing funk. I mean, she doesn't now. It's pop music, but it's great. She's a great success in most of Latin America countries, Mexico, I think Colombia as well, Spanish-speaking countries as well. She speaks English very well, Spanish, French.
Yeah.
She's very clever, intelligent, and gorgeous. I love her. Sorry.
If you have money, I would bet that those beats are about to become global.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about the cultural context here in Brazil for that kind of music, but I'll tell you how we got
It
interested.
comes from
in
the
it.
slums.
No, I know that.
Yeah.
I know. The reason I first heard about it is because one of the tracks that they used was running,
Yeah.
and they would speed it up much
Exactly.
faster.
Exactly.
And I saw
Exactly.
some videos of that, and I thought this is very cool because this is where these beats came from.
Yeah.
You know, not in a Brazilian context, but a similar economic, social context.
Good.
And how did the idea of creating the band come about?
Well, we were in high school, and we were all musicians in different ways. I was a jazz player. I played saxophone. Jim Cassidy was in a heavy metal band.
Oh,
That was his first love.
he likes
heavy
He
metal.
likes Kiss.
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 Okay.
Yeah.
And Kurt Larson was in the choir. And we got a taste of performing, and we liked it. And so after we graduated from high school, we decided we wanted to form a band. And that's when it started. It took us several years to figure out what we wanted to do.
What about the name?
The name is it was just
Was it hard to come up with?
No, not at all. It just popped into my head because it was a term that was floating around in the discourse at that time.
Yeah.
You know, people were talking about the coming age of computers.
Computers,
and, you know,
yeah.
nobody knew there was no internet in 1981, but you know, futurists were talking about those things, and
Enthusiasts,
we wanted to make
yeah.
futurist music. That's what we were trying to do.
Yeah. And you still do.
Well, now
Yeah.
it's retro futurist.
Sort of.
It's
yeah.
the future of the past.
It's the future of the
Because
past.
when people talk to me about now, interviewers will ask me, "Well, what do you think of the information society now with the internet and social media?" And I just think we never thought it would be so boring. We thought it
Yeah.
would be so much more exciting, like a William Gibson novel.
Yeah.
But instead, it's people looking at recipes and
Exactly.
cat videos
Oh
and
gosh.
makeup tutorials.
Exactly. The audience in Rocking Rio 2 was probably the biggest here in Brazil, and probably some of yours the whole career. Do you have any special memory from this specifically show, Rocking Rio 2? It's
I do.
1991.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, clearly it was the biggest performance.
Was it in Maracanã Stadium?
Yes.
It was, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It was the biggest show that we've ever done, by far.
Fantastic.
And we were not ready.
That's
that.
interesting.
The stage was
Huge.
huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
You would get out of breath just going from one side of the stage
Exactly.
to the other.
And back there, Kurt was wearing
Roller skates,
the skates,
And
roller
I'll
skates.
tell you another thing that most people don't know unless they were there. It was pouring rain.
Yes, it
'Cause you
was.
can't see it in the
yeah,
video.
Yeah.
So our experience, this is my subjective experience of Rock in Rio. We were on a bus with curtains drawn. The first thing we noticed when we were about a mile away was the smell
Really?
from the porta potties. So then we came into the stadium. We saw nothing. We saw nobody.
Did it reek?
Oh, it was terrible.
It was
It
terrible.
was terrible. Because they had already been there all day long.
Yeah.
It was 10 o'clock at night. We didn't see anyone. It was completely dark. We got out of the bus. We didn't help set up our own gear. There was no sound check. We got out of the bus. We were in a tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
We went up the tunnel, and the end of the tunnel was the stage.
Oh,
That was it. And
Yeah.
then we were on stage. We played for 40 minutes, and then we went back into the tunnel, got back
the whole
on
show
bus.
was 40 minutes?
Well, and that was a big controversy
Yeah.
because people were mad.
I
This is
I can
just
feel
the-
it, yeah.
This is the first time that the Brazilian fans have been mad at us.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't play repetition running.
Something like that.
Oh.
But we didn't know. No one told us that that it was supposed to be a whole set.
Mm-hmm.
So we played the same set that we were playing in the U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the people felt like our set was too short,
Yes.
and we
Yeah,
would have.
it is. 40 minutes is
very
too short.
happily played much longer, but
Yeah.
we just didn't know. So the whole experience was very surreal.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, when I think back, I can watch video of it now, and it doesn't seem like it's me. It does. I don't see. I don't.
You don't recognize yourself?
I recognize myself, but I don't remember it that way. It doesn't seem real. My
Yeah.
memories of it seems more like a dream because it happened so fast,
It did.
and then it
Yeah.
was done, and then reading about yourself in the newspaper afterwards.
Yeah, I saw it on TV.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
But
I
the
wish I
the tour after
had
that
been there.
was much more real for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was 6 weeks, 26 cities. We went to cities that most Brazilians hadn't even heard of at that time. And we really got a feeling for the country when we went up to the north, we went to the west. And it was fabulous.
Yeah.
It was a great experience for us.
What's your favorite song from Information Society? You gotta have one.
Well, that's an interesting question because, the big hits, you play them so many times, I can't even really hear them anymore.
Yeah.
It's not like I don't want to hear them, but I don't. It's like
Yeah.
if you stare at a spot on the wall for an hour, pretty soon you don't see the spot anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So my idea of what's my favorite song changes over time.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly, I'm not just saying this. I think that our last few albums have been our best albums. So some of my
I
favorite
agree.
songs are
Yeah.
from those albums. There's one from Oddfellows called "The Mimble's Daughter"
Mm-hmm.
that's one of my personal favorites.
Do you know this one?
Yes.
Yeah.
There are some songs from "Hello World,"
Hello
like "Down in
World.
Flames,"
Yeah.
that I think are among our best songs. But it's hard to fight against the cultural power of the big hits.
Mm-hmm. But whereas Running, Repetition, and Think are huge successes here in Brazil, are they in the United States?
Not Repetition.
Not Repetition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's well, for one thing, in the States, our first album was the biggest album by far.
Mhm.
In Brazil, Hack was the biggest album. So Brazilians, they like What's on Your Mind,
Mhm.
and they like
Yeah.
Walking Away. But
Yeah.
Think is just as big.
Think is amazing.
And then, obviously Repetition because of the telenovelas.
Yeah.
Then there's some songs from that the Brazilian fans always want us to play that certain members of the band will not play.
How long?
How
How
long?
long?
But
Lay
why?
All Your Love.
But why?
I don't know.
Do they refuse
Cry
to
Baby.
do it?
But
Slipping
you
away.
played Cry Baby.
Cry
We
Baby,
have,
yeah.
we
Yeah.
have, yeah. But
And Kurt
Some-
sings very well this song.
sometimes you
right?
just
He
get,
does,
you get
yeah.
sick of us. Sometimes you're just like, I can't stand playing that song anymore.
Yeah.
But then 2 years later, you're
You,
like,
you
okay.
just do it
Yeah.
again. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
So
Okay.
it depends. It depends on the tour. We've played all of those songs in Brazil, in the last 5 years.
And how was the process of producing electronic music in the beginning of the 80s?
It's an interesting question because when we started, being an electronic band was the only thing most people knew about us. Now, every band is an electronic band.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
so that doesn't mean anything anymore.
It doesn't, unfortunately.
Whereas we, people people would yell at us from the audience, because it was
What the fuck are you doing, right? Yeah.
they did. Or we had some fans that thought we were trying to make disco, which we kind of were, but not that kind of disco.
Not that kind of disco, yeah.
And so there was a lot of alienation in the early days about being an electronic band, especially in Minneapolis, because the Minneapolis scene was all about guitar music. We had a lot of famous punk bands and what they called garage rock bands,
Garage rock, yeah.
like Husker Du and the Replacements and Soul Asylum and
Soul
Semi-Solid.
Asylum, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which started out as a speed punk band, actually.
Speed punk band, yeah, yeah.
And then on the other hand, you had bands that were in the Prince world. So you had Prince and The Time, and
Do you have any friendship with other bands and talk to
No,
them?
not
No,
at all.
right? Yeah.
that's why we moved to New York as soon as possible.
To keep from making friends, or
It just felt a friendlier environment for our kind of music.
I see.
Ironically, I think that we would have been better to stay in Minneapolis and to stay in that sort of artistically arid environment. Because when we moved to New York, we were bombarded with so many influences that we kind of forgot what information society was supposed to sound like.
Yeah.
And that caused trouble. But from a personal point of view, I think everyone was very happy to be in New York.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. New York is a great place.
Yeah.
And samples at that time were a new thing happening. You had to ask permission to use those samples in the first album. How was that?
Well, we didn't know that we had to ask for permission. We only found that out later, because it was so new that there were no rules. If our samples had just been music, I think everything would have been fine. But because of Star Trek, which was a TV show
Yes.
and movies,
Yeah.
was so much of a bigger business than the music business. And
Was it Kurt's idea to use those samples from Star
well,
Trek?
it was all of our ideas. Kurt's the one who actually made the samples. There was a very special summer in the summer of 1984 when Kurt and I were living
When I was
together.
born.
Right. And we had both quit college, and we both had terrible jobs. I worked in a parking lot,
Oh,
just
gosh.
taking money
I know.
and tickets. And we hated
We've been there,
We hated
all of
our
us.
lives. And we would stay up until 3 a.m. watching TV. Terrible, terrible TV. And
Can imagine.
We connected a cassette recorder to the TV, and that's when we recorded all those samples.
All those samples.
And then several years later, when samplers were invented, Kurt went through all those tapes and cut the things up.
Oh, I see.
And then when I was doing pre-production on the first album, he had supplied me with all these samples, and I plugged them into the different songs.
I see. Is it true you almost had a soundtrack in Batman?
Yes,
For real?
that's a terrible story.
I want to hear
Oh
it.
no.
I want to know it.
Okay, so
If you can share
No,
it,
of
of course.
it's the kind of story that was terrible when it was happening, but now it's hilarious.
Yeah.
It was Batman's 1989 first
The Tim
yeah,
Burton Batman.
Tim Burton's, yeah, Tim Burton's.
Michael Keaton.
Michael Keaton, fantastic.
So we were
Melhor Batman. Yeah,
We were
we're
very-
saying the best Batman.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the best Batman.
That's the best one.
we were very hot, and so the word came down like, oh, we're gonna have Information Society do the theme song for the Batman movie.
Mhm.
And I had this brilliant idea. We're gonna do a cover of Heroes by David Bowie
Oh,
because it's about a hero.
it's about a hero. Yeah.
And we did the demo, and everybody at Warner Brothers loved it. And then somebody, we don't know who, somebody way up in the record company said, you know, Prince's last record didn't do very good, so he needs some help. And so we're going to give Batman to him. And we were just like,
Oh
"Well,
no.
we'll kill
Yeah.
ourselves. And so,
Can you imagine how Would
it was
that
terrible.
be? Yeah,
So as a consolation prize, if I don't know if you have that term in
we do.
Portuguese.
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the
It's
consolation
exactly the
prize-
same.
Okay, they had us play the cast party
Mm,
on the premiere
on the premiere.
night of Batman, and so, but it was a tiny club. It was about the size of this room.
Oh my God.
Well, okay, it was a little bigger than this, but very
Bit
small.
bigger, yeah.
The stage was terrible. The sound was terrible. We sounded terrible. We were awkward. And sitting in front of us, about from me to that wall, among the many people sitting looking at us, was Van Halen. All four of them. They were just looking at us like this.
Oh yeah. No, right?
The whole time
Yeah.
we were playing. And there was, it was my God. It was like, all the stars were there, and the whole thing fell apart, and our drummer Sally got very drunk and tried to go pick up Michael Keaton.
Was he there, Mike
He
Keaton?
was there, yeah.
And Diane.
It was such a disaster.
What's
that
the name of the actress? Diane. No, sorry. Michelle Pfeiffer.
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Michelle Pfeiffer. Yeah.
The whole experience.
I
Was,
thought of Diane Keaton because of Michael Keaton, but it's
There you go.
Michelle Pfeiffer. Yeah.
the whole experience was such a disaster that it was hilarious. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
And you had problems with how long music video. You
Oh yeah.
you didn't like the result. You tried
no,
to
we did not
redo
like
it.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
That happened. See, this is the great thing about being out of the music business. We can tell all the stories.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Here's how it happened. We were looking for a director for the music video.
Adam Ant.
Well, we had several directors,
Yes.
and then the woman from Warner Brothers said, "Well, you know, Adam Ant wants to become a video director."
Yeah.
And we said, "Yeah, but can he direct?" And the Warner Brothers said, "Don't worry, we'll help him. We'll do it. It'll be great."
Vocês foram cobaia. Sabe dizer isso?
Were you some sort of a guinea pig of?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I thought to myself, well, that could be cool. Good story, you know, Information Society video directed by Adam Ant. That's a good story. But he was terrible. He didn't know anything. In my opinion, I know some people like that video. We spent so much money on that video, and it looks like you filmed it on a camcorder. Yeah. And we're playing on a cruise with Adam Ant this coming spring.
Oh.
We might have to, you know.
But
Terrible.
The version of this video in Brazil was different. Do you know this version?
Well, what happened was they released one version, and then we were on the road. We were on tour. We didn't even see it. And then once we saw it, and the management saw it, they said, "This is terrible. You have to take it back and do a new version." But even the new version, I think, was
I like
great.
the new version.
Thank you.
And it was a
Thank
big hit in
I
MTV
know.
Brazil.
I know.
Number one video.
Yeah. And it was a good song too. And it was a shame. But yeah, it was a good learning experience.
Yeah.
Ele costuma ir em muitos podcasts no Brasil e no mundo
In Brazil,
também.
not really. This is his first
Justamente
one. Yeah.
pelo nosso convite.
Are you used to going to podcasts in the US or nowadays? I mean, even in Brazil. I mean, I think
Not
we
in-
are the first ones,
Not in
right?
person.
Not in person.
It's usually over the phone.
For real?
Or Skype.
Skype. Yeah.
Or FaceTime.
So we are
Yeah.
privileged.
Yes, you are. I feel like I'm.
Curta, compartilha.
Compartilha.
E é Brother Mix.
Esse é bom.
That's right. That's the very first
Well,
time.
we're almost coming to the end. We have some questions here. What's your favorite movie? If you have one.
Well, I have two answers.
Wonderful.
Okay, the first one is by a French director. It's from the 50s. It's called, the director is Jacques Tati, and the film is called Monsieur Hulot's Holiday.
Never heard of
Les
it.
Vacances de Monsieur Hulot. Classic movie, black and white. You should watch it. And my other favorite movie is a British film from the 80s called Withnell and I. It's also a comedy.
Great.
Yeah.
Mine is Inglorious Bastards, which is
That's
amazing.
a solid
It's a
choice.
Tarantino, yeah.
That's a solid choice.
It's a very good
E
one.
animes?
Do you like animes, or it's
I
the
think-
Japanese?
Honestly, I think it's a generational thing, and I think
It
I'm
is.
too old.
Yeah. Ah, you're not.
I
Come
liked,
on.
like as I was saying, we were introduced to Brazilian culture and to Japanese culture at the same time in the late 80s and the early 90s.
When was the first time you went to Japan?
89.
89?
And then
Wow.
and then I don't know if I can say this, but I got a girlfriend in Japan, so I spent some more time in Japan. And I I
good.
don't know what I fell in love with. I thought it was something, but it was probably Japanese culture is what I fell in love with. And anime was part of it back then. It wasn't popular in the States or anything, but it just wasn't it wasn't my thing even back
Yeah.
then.
Before we finish, I have an important question. Look at the world. It's a complicated place, and it's hard to keep the pace. You've got to wear a smiling face. Peace and love, it's the newest cause by far. And we've got all the biggest stars. Get your politics up to par. If you've got to believe in something, believe in us, because we make it easy. Peace and Love Incorporated.
Yeah.
What this song talks about. What does it mean? I have some clues, I
Okay.
guess. Like,
It's complicated.
Did you write it?
I did write it.
Yeah.
I wrote the music and the lyrics on that song. And it's I'll say what it's not about. Because there was a time in the United States when there were some people who were very, very right wing who thought that we were making fun of peace and love and hippies and anybody who was trying to work for peace or thinking that we were criticizing that. And that's not at all what the song is about. What it's about is the attempt by corporations to commodify, I'm sorry to use that English word, or monetize people's emotions and people's values. And that's why it's called Peace and Love Incorporated. It's not a critique of peace and love. It's a critique of people wanting to make money off of peace and love.
I see.
And that's the essence of the song. And I can tell you that at that time we would in interviews we were asked a lot of political questions. What do you think of the Amazon rainforest or the Congo or something like that?
I never liked answering
think
these
the
kinds of
subject-
questions. Yeah.
And we wanted to
é
say
mais atual do que nunca.
It's more contemporary than what you wanted to say. Sorry.
Eu acho que esse tema é mais atual do que nunca.
This term is more contemporary than it used to be.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no such thing back then, but Peace and Love Incorporated is a description of everything that is wrong with social media.
Exactly.
And I didn't have that in mind when I wrote it, but I had some idea of how corporations were using people's feelings and emotions to make money off of it.
It's a
You
wonderful
were ahead.
critique.
You were ahead of your time.
That's what.
Yeah, you were.
Yeah.
You were ahead
Those are
of
the
your
things that
time.
we were
Yeah.
thinking of about at that time.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
It's your favorite song, isn't it?
Not favorite, but
Because
one of the
you
favorites.
were able to
One of the
say it.
favorites. Yeah,
Plus, it's a good dance song.
yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Finally, we have some mandatory questions we ask every guest we have here. I'll start with Ale because it's it's your. I love it. Yeah. Your question is ask in Portuguese and then I'll translate it. Okay.
Por favor.
Yeah.
Vai.
Eu só queria fazer uma pergunta antes.
Yeah. Of course.
Still
have time.
Como ele já veio aqui no Brasil algumas vezes, como tá o português dele e quais os palavrões que ele sabe que é palavrão?
Okay. Before the compulsory questions, he wanted to ask, how's your Portuguese?
terrible. And let me just say, it is with a feeling of shame
Oh, don't say
that
that.
I come back to Brazil and I realize I've been to this country 20 times. And I don't...
It's the 20th time.
Something like
yes,
that.
something like
18 or
it, right?
20.
18
and
of 20.
all I can do is order at a restaurant. That's the best. And I'll tell you why. Because the way my brain works, every time I come here, I think to myself, well, we'll never be back in Brazil. How could we do that? I've been saying that since 1992. And so I say, like, why am I going to bother to learn Portuguese? I'm not going to ever go back there.
Yeah.
And then 2 years later, there we are.
You're
and
still
I'm like,
here.
oh my God,
Yeah.
I don't speak any Portuguese.
You're gonna learn eventually.
Pensa em fazer um CPF?
Yeah. Do you want to have to enroll in a social number?
Yeah.
You almost got it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll tell you what, I'm better than some people in the band. But Kurt spent quite a bit of time in Brazil, and he's okay. He's pretty good.
He speaks Portuguese
And
better than you, right? Yeah.
Much better.
Much better.
I respect that. Like, he can go out into the world
That's wonderful.
and he can survive. You know, whereas I'm trying with Google Translate, and it's terrible. Terrible.
Terrible. Yeah.
So a lot of sign language.
Yeah. Now let's go to the questions. Please ask yours first.
Bom, então vamos pro encerramento, né? Infelizmente.
Infelizmente.
A minha pergunta, como sempre, é: onde você gostaria de acordar amanhã?
Where would you like to wake up tomorrow?
Well, I think I would like to. Okay.
Don't say Japan.
No.
We'll be sad.
I think that I would like to wake up exactly where I will wake up, which is on Copacabana Beach.
That's wonderful.
Yep.
Wonderful
Because
answer.
I look out the hotel room and the sunlight is bright.
Yeah.
All the buildings are clear. The frigate birds, the
Yeah.
surf.
Yeah.
The whole, maybe Ipanema, but
Lot fancier, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, one of those two.
Yeah. My question is, I can't live without, or I can't go without.
Oh, that's interesting.
Either one will be fine.
Oh, I mean, for me, it would be books.
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 Wonderful.
I'm a huge reader, and I won't.
Which genre are you into?
Almost all genres. I like nonfiction. I love history. I'm a particular fan of the Byzantine Empire. But world history in general. I like fantasy. I like mysteries. I like literary fiction. And I can't read on a tablet or a Kindle.
Nor can I.
So my backpack always weighs about 30 pounds.
I'm getting used to the Kindle version, but I still love the smell of the pages. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it would definitely be books for me.
Wonderful. Bira?
What do you still have to do before you die?
Nothing.
That's wonderful. Absolutely nothing.
No, I think about this sometimes. I'm a very nervous flyer. I don't like to fly. If there's turbulence, I have panic attacks. I have to take Valium when I fly. But I think to myself, if this plane crashes, that's okay. I've done everything I want to do. Everything is fine.
And there's nothing we can do, right?
Yeah,
when it crashes, right?
That's right. Yeah. So I don't have any unfulfilled ambitions, honestly. I've had a family. I've raised 2 children who are successful adults. I've run businesses. I have a band. We're still playing shows together. We're still having
And
fun.
wonderfully.
And what more could I feel like it would be selfish to ask for anything more than that.
Great.
But
Great.
do you have plans for 2025?
We're still going to keep playing some shows. Our plans include a cruise and so quite a few shows in the U.S. But I live in the country. I live in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
I live on a pond. We go swimming, and
Wonderful.
It's very nice.
Show até os 100 anos, né?
Concerts until you're 100?
It's funny you should say that because, okay, here's my answer to that. And again, I can only say this because there are no consequences anymore. Sometimes I look at myself in the mirror after, we booked some shows. Like we booked a new tour in Brazil for 2024. And I look at myself in the mirror and say, no. It's like, stop doing it's like time to stop.
Do I still have energy for that?
Yeah. But then I look at some of the other acts that we play with, especially in the States, like when we do 80s tours, and I'm like, okay,
we're fine.
We're okay.
We're okay.
Yeah,
we're
doing pretty
fine.
good.
Yeah, we can do it.
Compared to some of these people.
Compared to some of.
So, that's my answer. As long as we look better than some of the other acts, I think we're fine.
Okay. Can I say something? Posso dizer algo? Firstly, I'd like to thank you and the band, or the whole Information Society. It's been a pleasure. I'm very excited. I'm very happy. I was overwhelmed with this interview.
Likewise. I'll say this. It's interviews now in 2024 as opposed to 1994 are very pleasurable.
They are.
Because the people who are interviewing know the band and they know our history.
Exactly.
And it's much better than the interviews used to be just like, how did you think of the name? What were your influences?
Yeah.
And just like these boring questions that like they would add the same questions for any band. It's very nice to have a conversation with people who know a little bit about the band and can ask some questions.
A natural flow, right? We managed to do it.
So, which is to say that I also appreciate it, and I've had a great time.
Thank you.
Thank you very
E
much.
agora que nós aproximamos essa relação, na próxima turnê, nada mais justo que estar aqui.
Please let us know when you come back, all right? If
Já
we
está
have the
feito o
chance,
convite
you're
pra
invited
nós.
already, okay?
It'll depend on what I look like in the mirror.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine. I must say, you'll be back in 2 years, I guess.
It's usually about 2
Yeah,
years.
it's usually about 2 years.
May have to write some new music just to justify,
All right.
going back on the road.
All right.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Obrigado, muito obrigado.
Muito obrigado a todos que estiveram aqui. Eu vou passar a palavra aqui pro Ale. Mas foi uma alegria muito grande para mim, pro Bira, pro Ale e creio que também pro Paul, Kurt, James. Acredito que eles também vão ver e vão ficar muito felizes com a entrevista. Muito obrigado. É isso aí. Ale, encerra.
Alguma consideração?
Não, eu zerei minha vida aqui.
Olha nem falar, né? Galera, é isso. Se você gostou, curte, compartilha esse vídeo. Brother Mix tá internacional hoje.
We are international.
Exatamente. Então espalha a palavra, dá aquela moral, se inscreve no canal, sigam a gente nas redes sociais, sigam o Information Society também na rede social, né?
Claro.
Que vai estar aqui na descrição. E é isso. Muito obrigado, tamo junto e até a próxima.
Bye bye, everyone.